Are you ready to talk about Digimon? Are you ready to talk about Red? Are you ready to talk about Red in the Digimon card game? Let's do this. Currently, we are going to talk about the Red strengths and weaknesses in the Set 1.0 format, as well as how Red likes to play. So if this kind of stuff interests you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, turn that notification bell on to smash potatoes. That way you know when more of these amazing Digimon videos are uploaded. So the most Tier 1 way to play Red right now is Red Omnimon Turbo. Yeah, you just play Omnimon, and you have a whole bunch of cheap Red cards, like Blue kind of has, cheap cards to evolve, and you just work your way up to that Omnimon. Maybe you get it with a stack that gives you extra security, extra power, you know, little tricks you can play here and there, but Omnimon Turbo is the way to go. Whenever you're playing against Red, you're likely going to have to fight off 4 Gaia Force, 4 of them. Gaia Force being that card that says if this is in your security, you could destroy something for free, or you can pay 8 and destroy something. Really good card. Other Red cards you'll see in Red or in other colors are Volcanic Dramon. Volcanic Dramon is the big one. Volcanic Dramon has the ability to board wipe your opponent's cheap cards, and it has security +1. So it's a really good card, and only a common. The other Red card that people will splash sometimes here and there is the Agumon Expert. If you're playing some kind of Agumon Rookie Rush deck of some sort, or multicolored deck, you know, you're going to see a little bit of Agumon here and there, so Agumon Expert can bring back an Agumon. It doesn't have to be Expert, it can be any Agumon, so that's kind of cool. And now we move on to more of the Tier 2 options. Sometimes you'll see Gallantmon, sometimes you'll see the Red War Greymon from the set, the one that nullifies any options that are checked by it in security. Really good card, by the way. We can also play cards like Red-Green Tyrannomon, because the Red does have some Tyrannomon cards that make the whole Tyrannomon theme a whole lot better. So you might see some of that lying around. I think that covers pretty much most of it. Now, the strengths of Red I think are pretty straightforward. They hit really hard, they can hit for extra security, and they have the ability to just destroy things randomly. That's really the strengths of Red, and it's honestly Tier 1 for a reason, because destroying stuff is good, you maintain board presence with it, it forces your opponent to kind of play around things like Volcanic Dramon or Omnimon or whatever else, whatever to be playing. So the fact that they have so much destructive power and security checks and aggression is just really good. And that's why it's Tier 1 honestly right now. What are the weaknesses though? Well, the weaknesses is that it's not very consistent. You know, if you compare Red Omni to Blue Omni for a second, Blue Omni has a lot of consistent cards like Gabumon, Zudomon, it's got things like Hammer Spark which help manipulate memory. Red doesn't have really any of that per se. You know, it's just destruction cards. You know, Blue has Hammer Spark and Red has Gaia Force, and that's really what it is. Also, playing against Red, and playing with Red, I've noticed that if you get choked by memory, or if you potentially get out-aggroed Rush if you don't have Volcanic Dramon access, you are in a world of pain. So those are definitely concepts you're going to watch out for. Now, a little bit of fun information that you guys can use when you're deck building. Blue Omnimon is technically the best deck of the format, no one can deny that. However, it is countered by Red Omnimon. People on the internet were saying, and people that have played the game have said, you know, Red Omnimon can just destroy the Blue Omnimon matchup. Why? Because it destroys all its creatures, it doesn't have a chance to get to Omnimon. And that's actually true. A lot of people really do believe that, and playing the matchup, playing Red versus Blue, being on both sides of the spectrum, I can kind of understand that. And yeah, the Blue Omnimon matchup can out-consistent and choke memory. That's okay too, but it is good against the Blue Omnimon matchup. And if you can't play Blue Omnimon for whatever reason, you definitely should play Red. Red also has arguably the best starter deck right now because it has the Gaia Forces and the Greymon and the Agumon, the original ones. And Metal Greymon, War Greymon, they're cool too. You know, I won the very first Digimon tournament in Belleville with 2 Red starter decks. That's a feat I wouldn't imagine trying with Blue, and definitely not Yellow. One final thing about Red is that it actually has a really cool level 5 toolbox. It gives you the options of playing different techs in your deck to kind of address certain matchups you might be struggling with. For example, if you're playing, you know, Red Omnimon Turbo, you're going to play 4 of the 2-cost Groundramon just to make evolving cheaper. But what else are you going to play in there? You could play Skull Greymon, the one that destroys blockers. you know, because blockers are a problem when you're trying to get aggressive with extra security and whatnot. You could try playing the Metal Greymon, the Memory Borrower. Technically, I think every color almost has one right now. Memory Borrowers are cool, sometimes. You have access to Garudamon from this set, the one that does piercing when it's on the field, and its inheritable lets you draw a card. Sometimes. Honestly, drawing cards is fun, so, you know, that's there. You'll also have access to the secret rare Metal Greymon, the one that gives your opponent 5 memory when you attack, but it does check 3 securities. And if you can power that up, you know, with your inheritable stack, that can do a lot of damage. You know, I used to win games single-handedly by just being aggro with that. And there's also the Metal Greymon in the starter deck that says if it's blocked, you know, you gain 3 memory. I really like that one because people tend to, like, really play blockers in the most aggressive matchups that Red is technically a part of. So having access to Metal Greymon when they try to block you, you know, they're either taking a security or 2 if you have Greymon underneath it, or they're blocking it and you gain 3 memory to something else. I think that's it about Red. That's really all I want to say. Next set, we'll have lots of things to talk about. Things like Ragnarlordmon, for example, Blitz Greymon, for example. You know, some really fun Red cards over the horizon that give Red a little more flexibility in how it plays. I look forward to trying each and every one of those archetypes and seeing just what ends up being Tier 1 and not. Hopefully you found this insightful. Hopefully you found this inspiring. If you had trouble beating Red, maybe now this helps. If you wanted to make your Red game a little better, maybe this helps. Hopefully you found it informative anyway. And we have one more color left to talk about, and it's black. You know, not really a color, a shade, but you know, whatever. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.